Hello and welcome to The Rewriters, a celebration of people who have shirked convention, expectation, and even their own limitation to rewrite their story on their terms. Each episode will dig into the inspired and very real-life stories of people who have done just that, rewritten their story. I'm a nosy practical optimist too, so expect all of the nitty-gritty details. If you're an ambitious seeker craving a different kind of lifestyle, career, or business, but have felt held back by your own or other people's beliefs about what's possible or permissible, The Rewriters is for you. Hello rewriters and welcome to this month's episode. I'm your host and resident rewriter Monique Shaw, and just in case you're new to the show or fancy a reminder, I run a business called Rewrite. I'm a transformational coach, lover of brand and personal brand storytelling. I'm a writer and a podcaster who makes and talks about things that help people, including you, create a career, business and life that works and feels better. Before we dive into the episode, I want to tell you about my new Rewrite Career Clinics, which are powerful one-off sessions that target your biggest career challenges. There are 3 clinics to choose from, or you could book all 3. There's the personal brand session, which will show you how to rewrite your personal brand story to shape the career or business you want. And I'll help you to get very clear on your personal brand, and together we'll craft your brand narrative and pillars. There's the career clarity session for integrated career planning for a life that actually works. And that thinks about planning your career in the context of your whole life, not just your job. And there's the time wealth session. This one's to help you develop a time management strategy to maintain your impact in half the time at work. I'm a self-described time management ninja and a former people pleaser, so this one is absolutely for people who somehow seem to never have enough time to do the things that are really important to them. Each of these sessions are one-to-one with me and are super hands-on. I'll include a link to the clinics in the show notes, or you can visit rewrite.com and click the Career Clinics banner at the top of the page. Okay, now on with the episode. In today's episode, I speak with Nicki Coe about her story from employment to self-employment and the very important and powerful role that her emotions and feelings now play in both her goal planning and her business planning. Nicki is a marketing strategy and business coach and co-founder of the marketing agency Lunar and Lion. She worked in corporate media for many years, but always knew she wanted to work for herself someday. Nicki was constantly trying to think of business ideas and plans, but nothing stuck. She was always stumped by not having all of the answers and all of the details laid out before she began. Nicki is a self-confessed list person who loves stats and loves data, but it was only when she overcame the old story that success required her to know exactly where she wanted to go that she was able to embrace and trust the pull of the next step rather than planning for the big end destination. Ultimately, it was through this letting go of control and the need to know that she was able to create 2 successful and fulfilling businesses. In a note that she wrote to me before she came onto the podcast, she quoted the writer Victoria Labalme, who said, "Clarity is not the place from which we begin, but rather the place at which we ultimately arrive." And Nicki said that this summed up her rewrite perfectly. She mentions this quote during our conversation, and I'll link to Victoria's work in the show notes for you too, if that resonates and you want to find out more about her and her work also. Nowadays, Nicki, along with her business partner Scarlett, embraces the role of emotion and how they want to feel in their goal and business planning. Financial metrics live alongside deeper, more resonant markers of what their personal definitions of success are. In our conversation, we discuss starting a business with your best friend, pushing through needing to know for sure, and of course, the role of emotion and feelings in starting and running a business. I hope you really enjoy our conversation. I'll share the ways that you can connect with Nicki and find out more about her and Scarlett's work in the show notes. And please, as always, give the Rewriters 5 stars, a really glowing review, and share it with your friends if you enjoy it. Wishing you an awesome rest of the week and month, and now on with my conversation with Nicki. Hi Nicki, welcome to the Rewriters.
Hi Monique, how are you?
I'm very well. So let's kick off with finding out a little bit about you and your current story.
I am co-founder and strategy director at Lunar and Lion, which is a marketing agency for lifestyle brands, with my fabulous co-founder and best friend and just general like life sister, Scarlett. And I also run a business coaching practice for daring dreamers, where I work with people from across different industries, backgrounds, all sorts of things, on their business goals and plans and bringing those to life. So yeah, that's where I'm at now.
Right. And when did you launch Lunar and Lion?
So we launched Lunar and Lion in March 2020, a week before lockdown. I think looking back at it, we all thought it would just be like a 2-week thing, thinking, oh, this won't be a big deal. I'm sure this will be fine. And obviously, none of us realised quite the extent that it would unfold to be. But yes, we launched it in March 2020. And I think it's interesting because for years we'd have these kind of cocktail fueled chats of being like, we should do our own thing together. Why are we doing this for other people? And we had loads of ideas. And then the next day we'd just kind of be like, oh, that was fun. Maybe one day, maybe we'll see how it unfolds, and talked about it, but never really acted on the idea and the passion behind it, really. We even were out having drinks one night and at Grind, the bars across London. And we even got to the point of actually naming the agency, which was a blend of our two cocktails at the time, which was a pink something, like a clover. So it was called Pink Clover, the agency at one point. And we were like, that's really bad. Let's not do that. But we kept getting further and further, and then stopping ourselves. And then luckily, as fate would have it, in March of that year, I taken redundancy from work. So I was out of the corporate life, and Scarlett was doing her own thing as well, sort of doing some freelancing and some professional spinning. So we were like, right, there's no excuses now. This is the perfect setup for us to start. And I think looking back, we tried so hard for so long to find our thing.
Yeah.
Like, well, we could do it, but what's our niche? What's our focus? Why would people want to work with us? Like, why are we different? And that was what held us back, when actually at the end what we realized was we are what's different. Our energy, our focus, our team energy as well. We are what makes the business what it is. So actually our beliefs and our values for the company was more than enough, and what made it special and ready to launch, rather than looking for something else that didn't need to be there.
So you were saying we should do our own thing, and then getting to the point where you're like, well, what's that thing going to be? And that's where you stopped historically.
Yeah, because I think we just, and I see this with other friends and with clients, people saying they want to do something, whether it's as broad as I want to work for myself, or I want to launch an agency of some sort, and then people, I think, find ways to stop themselves because they don't know the details yet of what that looks like. So kind of put those blockers in their way. I mean, I appreciate logistically wise, you need to have an idea of, the next step. You need obviously the next step.
Yeah.
But I think people look at so many steps ahead, and because they don't know what that looks like, they stop themselves from going anywhere.
Yeah.
Because they think they need that full picture, when actually, Lunar and Lion has changed dramatically from what we thought it would be. And through lockdown, we went through phases of, we launched t-shirts, we ran events, we did sort of some corporate online workshops as well, and all these things, when actually our pure focus to start with was providing marketing services, and we had to evolve the plan just based on the context of what was happening. So yeah.
So what's your background and what's Scarlett's background, and how did they cross over? Why did you want to do something together?
So we both worked in marketing for a really long time, and actually Scarlett used to be my boss. So I left uni, had previously worked for Disney, loved that, and then was looking for a job that kind of spanned across hospitality, looking for something different. And yes, Scarlett, lucky me, chose me to be in her team. And we used to work for a restaurant and bar group across London in the UK, and got on really well, always really clicked in that dynamic. And then I left sort of just under a year later, and really from there, that's when I'd say we became really good friends, and it grew from there. And I think what's always been really interesting and special about our dynamic is because we met in that professional context, we've always had a really strong respect for each other professionally.
Mm.
You know, she's an absolute rock star at what she does, and I've seen her really shine in that like professional context. You know, we have such a deep respect for each other's skill sets, and also know where we both really excel. So I think in a way, yes, being, you know, best friends, I'm also godmother to her little baby girl, so you know, there's loads of ties, but it also was built on that really strong pillar of actually knowing what we're both like when we put our proper, like, you know, marketing boss hats on, and how we react in that environment, which I think was really special.
Yeah.
And really helped. Yeah.
So you had that professional respect in place, and the friendship grew out of that.
Yeah. And yeah, now we're on this journey together, hopefully, you know, forever, and seeing how it unfolds. But yeah, it's very special, and I feel very grateful to have that relationship where we can be best friends, and we can go out and we can have fun, but we can also very much switch to work mode, and have those conversations. We have had to sometimes set boundaries around that time, like this is friend time, this is work time, because we're conscious of keeping both sides of that relationship, you know, special and important. But yeah, on the whole, I think we bounce off each other really well. We're really good at supporting each other. We've both gone through a lot this last year personally, and I think it's credit to both of us and our relationship how we've really been able to almost instinctively just pick up or support the other one as and when needed. And I guess I'm lucky that we've both always been very open with each other, very honest. But I think communication has been a massive part of, you know, being co-founders, and especially with lockdown and not being able to build a business together
Physically
like
together.
Yeah. It's difficult, but obviously we've all got used to being on Zoom, and that has massive benefits. But I think the energy of being in a room with someone when you're building something that's so new and feels so personal, and sometimes a bit scary, exciting, you know, all the feels, not being in the same room definitely was difficult. So to have such good communication and trust was super important, definitely.
I can't remember the order of this. I always forget it. The sort of storming, norming process that teams go through, right? In it's, you know, I can't remember the book either, but anybody that works in a corporate will recognize this language that I'm using. But you sort of start with the, you know, getting the team together, or building the group, and then you thrash it all out, and you have the storming phase where you're kind of working out who does what and how it sits and what the dynamics are, etc. And then it's norming, so it becomes normal. And then I think there's a performing one as well, where you actually go beyond just being normal and into performance and hopefully high performance. Sounds like you and Scarlett had an opportunity to do the forming, storming, norming, performing well before you started the business, and that laid a really good foundation for you guys, A, to become co-founders, but B, to manage a business in isolation from one another during the pandemic.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as well, going through those phases in different contexts of our lives was really helpful as well. Instead of going through all that in a work context, and then purely as friends, having no sort of work connection for a good few years actually, and then bringing it back again to almost combining those two different experiences in one, very much meant that we knew each other inside out and had lots of different experiences to pull on, to know how we would each cope in certain situations, what our strengths were. Again, strengths both professionally and personally. And I think just having that deep trust and desire for the other person to succeed in life, in, you know, working careers, just everything. I really do, you know, we do really want the best for each other in every sense of our lives, which, as I said, yeah, we have a very special relationship, which I'm incredibly grateful for, but we only ever want the best for each other. So I think when you have that headspace, we do a co-founder, there's no kind of tit for tat, or like, well, I did this, so maybe now like you could start doing that, or there's no scorecard. It's like, well, I wouldn't be here, I wouldn't be who I am, we wouldn't be creating what we are creating without each other. So it doesn't really matter day to day kind of how it unfolds. And I think that's where for us the business vision and feeling has been so important, because we've always said that the reason we want to run Lunar and Lion, obviously, is to fuel our day-to-day passion of, because, well, the reason why it's called Lunar and Lion is because for us, the core drivers of us starting the agency was to give us energy and to make us feel brave, which is why it's Lunar for energy, Lion for bravery. Because again, we came back to the idea of like, we're trying so hard to think of a name, and then we were like, right, the agency is us. So why are we doing this? What's the drivers for us? And it was, energy and bravery. So that's where the name came from. And that is, our mission statement of how we serve all of our clients is we are there to inject energy and inspire bravery and bring that to everything that we do, which feels very, I think, natural to us as characters, but also keeps us on track with our service and what we're here to achieve for our clients. So I think having our mission based in something so emotive and so personal means that actually the vision for the business has always been about a lifestyle that we want to lead. It's not been about like, I really want to earn a certain number or work for a specific brand. Obviously we have those conversations and they're important, but for us, we always talk about visions of working together and like traveling abroad or flying to open a New York office, or like things that we talk about of how it feels to be in that position, and what it means for our lifestyles and why we're doing it for our future families and for our future happiness. So yes, obviously the vision involves things like, I guess, more traditional success metrics of finances and wins for the business. But for us, it's always been about how does it feel? What does it mean for us on like I suppose a way more sort of fulfilling level.
You're coming from a place of, why are we doing this? These are the reasons why. Starting with your why. Does it change how you then make those harder business decisions around strategy and finance, etc., and growth?
Yeah, it definitely does, and I think it's something that we articulate also in a way, as I said, because it's kind of ingrained for us. We almost don't have to say it out loud in that respect. So we actually had we're together every Monday, normally at least once a week, and we were actually having a chat this week about kind of revisiting how we set our goals, so how we kind of plan out our targets for the month. And we started off with having things that were very kind of metric based, so like X number of reach outs, X number of new pitches, that sort of thing. And we actually said again this week, like, we didn't start doing it like that, and we don't want to do it like that. That's not how we kind of left the corporate world, because we don't want to be sitting there like ticking off a spreadsheet of like targets and things to do. To us, we wanted to feel intuitive and something that we enjoy doing every day, because that is the magic of building your own thing. So yeah, we've actually now gone back to kind of setting our monthly, and generally bigger goals in terms of, yes, we've got themes of workflows and things to do, but it will be on a basis of like, okay, we want to be working with clients that make us feel like this.
Yeah.
Who might they be? And we had a conversation recently actually where we've done a big project with a big global client, which was an amazing win for the business and has transformed kind of our I guess from day-to-day things like our processes, but also bigger things in terms of our aspiration for the business. But actually we were saying like, what's our balance there? Because yes, we want to work with those global corporates because financially, obviously, it's lucrative, but also it challenges us and it gets us back in those environments that we do kind of miss, of those sort of like boardroom chats and things that we can like dip in and out of now. We also love working with people who have just started a business from their kitchen, or who have run it and they're working as a solopreneur and want to grow it. And we feel blessed to have that balance of the two. And we were saying actually we want both because of how they service our emotions in the business differently. The big corporates allow us to kind of, I suppose, like dip into that world a bit and have fun with it and love being part of that environment. But then working with the entrepreneurs allows us to really be part of their story and see their transformation. It's very emotive, isn't it, to be part of something that's so close to someone. So again, yes, absolutely, it's how that services how we feel about the business and what energy that allows us to bring to the table, both in terms of clients and for each other.
Sounds like the corporate piece links nicely to the courage, the bravery and the kitchen table companies of one links really nice, and startups links really nicely to the energy. Certainly in my experience in the corporate world, you did have to take a big, like, deep breath. And, you know, when you were giving a big presentation in a boardroom or really pushing yourself and stretching up to those big goals and having moments. I don't know if you had this in your experience, but I remember sitting in a big boardroom in New York City. And I had the same experience when I was, because I'm not from the UK, obviously I'm Australian. I had the same experience sitting in a boardroom in London and looking over the Thames. Both of those moments, I was sort of sitting there going, how did I end up here? And kind of pinching myself, but it did take a lot of courage to be able to act into those spaces. And I found that talking to people that work on a smaller scale, entrepreneurs doing their thing, starting things from scratch, there's a different kind of energy in that. It does allow you to get right into the detail and the heart of what's going on. So yeah, I just listening to you talk about the corporate versus the kitchen table businesses. I don't know if it's minimizing or reductive to call them that, but you know what I mean? It feels like it ties nicely to your courage, energy, duality that you've built with the business as well.
Yeah, and I think, again, that's kind of unfolded quite naturally. And to follow on from your point, I feel like doing both allows us to better serve both. Because I don't know about you, but almost like leaving the corporate world from being an employee in it and going back in sort of on this capacity allows me to just have way more fun with it. And with all the respect in the world to that situation, but just to be like, I can take it at the importance level that I need to do my job and service you in the project as best as I can, and then step back. So I feel like I have the bravery, to your point, and awareness to go into that environment confident and knowing that I've got kind of a broader context, but have fun with it. But kind of know that it's, you know, that often these projects can be seen something that I really want to enjoy and learn from. And then again, yeah, the energy sort of from that again allows me to work with these entrepreneurs and the solo business owners as well. So yeah, I think they fuel each other, and it's worked out as a nice mix that hopefully continues to evolve in that way.
I absolutely 180'd when I left that world, and I left in March 2020. I started my business as well. 2 weeks before the first lockdown. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about that too, because I do think it's an interesting experience being a business owner only in that context. There's some questions that I was asked at the start where I couldn't separate, is this the experience of running your own business, or is this experience of running your own business in the pandemic, or living in a pandemic, or both? But when I first left my employer and started my own thing, I really 180'd from the corporate world. I really didn't want to, I wasn't interested in doing any corporate work. I worked with people that worked in a corporate environment, and those professionals are the people that I can really relate to, and I'm very passionate about helping them make their work lives work. But I had no interest in going into corporate environments initially, and the world had that plan for me anyway, as it turned out. But actually, I've rebalanced now, and whilst I was more drawn to working with individuals and helping people to create lives and work that worked better, I'm drawn back to doing more stuff in corporate spaces as well, because I think there's only so much change that we can affect at an individual level. There are some things that can, if you stack it up to a more structural level, you can have a bigger impact.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, just generally, the mindset of someone that runs a business or wants to run a business, to me, you are innately therefore a curious person, and you want challenges and you want to learn. Otherwise, you wouldn't be drawn to running a business, because it's by no means kind of a routine. It's not like a tick list thing, is it at all? It's you're constantly learning, constantly evolving, and looking for new challenges, because that's what it is. So I think if you weren't looking for other ways to service new clients or learn new things or have other experiences, to me that kind of conflicts with just the foundational mindset of foundational mindset, is that the right phrase? Whatever, I mean, the basic sort of approach you would need to actually be a business owner.
Yeah.
Because I just don't see how you can have one and not the other.
So that touches on this idea that I've found in my business, which is following my business's nose, like seeing where it goes. And in my conversations with you, it sounds like you and Scarlett, my friend's called Charlotte, I was talking to her yesterday. It sounds like with you and Scarlett, you're doing something similar. You're at the top of the conversation, you were talking about when you started the business, you were experimenting with all different sorts of things. Ultimately, you wanted to provide marketing services, but you were doing that in lots of different ways. And you kept on coming back to your why and have kept on exploring and see how things go and doing a more intuitive or organic goal planning practice. Can you talk to me a little bit about how you follow your business's nose and your approach to goal planning that isn't this typical smart, list them out, tick them off approach?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's been a real personal evolution for me as well, because I am innately an organization nerd. I love a spreadsheet. I love lists. I've always been someone that loves, all of those things, post-it notes, you name it, like I've got it. And I used to be a project manager as well. So my job required me every day to be super organized. And I really enjoy it as well. So I think it's actually been something that I've had to let go of over the last few years. And it's always been in me to be very intuitive. I've always been someone, even as a kid, who would do things because I felt that I should. And I think that's come from my mum, especially, who's always been very much of the same mindset. So I've always kind of, I suppose, I've both the skills of being really organized, but also not needing things always to be logical to want to do them, being able to just trust the feeling of it. And for me, actually, initially, that's where my coaching focus came from, because I was, again, working in corporate world, working in advertising, really enjoyed it, but just had this ongoing niggle in my head of like, I really want to work for myself, but I just don't know what or why or how or when. And I'm quite impatient as well. So I would be like, well, what do I do? How do I, what's the answer here? And I tried to get a new promotion and I got it and I loved it, but it still didn't settle this, this urge to do something different. And I was at a corporate training workshop, sort of offsite one day. And I was sat there in this room just thinking, this is kind of fun, but again, what am I doing here? I just don't feel like I should be here. And I can explain it as no more really than a sort of a mini epiphany. I just randomly thought to myself, I should be a life coach. And I remember sitting where I was at the table and thinking, that's random, because I've never even had a coach and I don't really know what it is. So I started to do some research. And anyway, to speed up the story, I got my own coach, loved it, and thought, I'm drawn to this. I don't know why, I don't know what it will lead to, but this is where I'm supposed to be. And I think that's how it's evolved for me. Is I was trying so hard to start a business by knowing what it was going to be and the outcome of what it was going to be. It was when I just let go more and followed the next step and followed what lit me up and gave me energy, then it evolved. I remember I did a coaching diploma while I was still working full time. And I remember sitting at work thinking, I don't even know if I want to be a coach full time or what this will look like, but I had to really train myself to just let that go and be like, let it go. It doesn't matter. The energy I got from learning something new was so amazing. I just thought, well, I'm supposed to be doing this, and how it works out for me will unfold. And I don't necessarily believe in fully letting go. I definitely believe we have to take action and make things happen for ourselves. But I believe that action can just be that next step. It doesn't have to be creating that full plan. I think that moment and losing that mindset and changing that habit for me is what has helped me to allow both of the businesses to unfold. Because again, even when I then left work and took redundancy, my plan was to become a coach, which I was already doing, and I loved it. But I know I wanted to do marketing as well, because I love the creative focus of it. And I'm good at it as well, and I enjoy it, and I wanted to work with other people. So that's where Lunar and Lion came in. Then I thought, oh God, how am I going to actually do both? What's going to be the split here? Because, you know, again, maybe like a lot of us, I carry, you know, a perfectionist self that likes to pop up its head every now and then. I say, well, I can't do both really well. How am I supposed to be able to do both? But actually, again, just by trusting that next step of being like, well, I feel like I'm supposed to do both, so I'll just see what happens. Now it's become a really magical mix of having 3 or 4 coaching clients that I sort of coach on the side, and then having Lunar and Lion, and it's actually created a really great cycle sometimes that allows my coaching clients to work with Lunar and vice versa, which again I had not planned for, and if I had, it probably wouldn't have worked. So I think that is how it's been a case of just letting that go, and what's led me to planning with emotion, I suppose, and emotion and vision for my life beyond just the business goals and planning it. So where do I want to be, how do I want to feel, who am I with?
Yeah, it's interesting what you say there about, rather than saying or sticking with, well, how am I going to make this work? I want to do both, but how am I going to make this work? You made the decision that you wanted both, or you felt that you wanted both, and you would just keep taking the next step to see how it unfolded. And then purely organically and by divine magic, you've got 2 businesses that are feeding into each other completely unintentionally, but really, really working. And that wouldn't have happened, as you say, necessarily, if you'd forced the issue. It had to unfold by the doing. The important point that I think you made there was not being too fixed on, you know, what the things are or the steps are that you need to take, thinking about the big picture and how you want it to feel, but also adding some action to that and doing the doing. You don't get there without doing that bit.
Absolutely. And there's a TED talk, Anna, she's also got a small book out by an amazing lady called Victoria Labalm, who does it. Her book's called Risk Forward. That basically is, just about this idea of trusting the next step. And I'm sure we've heard in different forms, whether it's, take the next step forward, or trust what lights you up, or that sort of thing. But this idea that actually of letting go of that very toxic narrative, that's to be successful, you need to know the destination. And she has an amazing quote, which I probably will not do justice, but the general gist is clarity is not the place from which we begin, but the place at which we ultimately arrive, which I think is mind-blowing, because it's so true. People think that to start something, you need to know the path. It needs to be clear. When you don't, as you said, to your point, like, it's clear to me now that I can do both businesses, but at the time I had no idea. And so I use that quote a lot because I think it sort of defines lots of different areas of my life, personally and professionally. And I just think it's something people don't think about enough, or give themselves credit for, that actually you really don't need to know what's going to happen next, or what even, step 3, 4, 5 at the end is. And also, that, to me, again, that's part of the journey. Like, if everyone knew what their life's going to look like, surely people think they want to know, but they don't really want to know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because otherwise, where's the adventure? Where's the excitement? Where's the lessons, the challenges, all those things? So I think we trick ourselves by thinking we want to know the outcome, and actually we don't really, but yet still use it as a reason not to do something.
We can rob ourselves of the play and that kind of the need, our inner child need to experiment and play and explore and see, and that adult brain, the over intellectualizes and requires absolutes. And then what do you do when you achieve that goal that you've popped on the list that is very prescriptive and ticked off, but make another goal, or another list of goals there's this perpetual cycle of pursuing the list of things that you want to achieve, ticking them off. And I do it myself. So I'm saying this from a place of someone who is very much a lists person, very driven by achievement, and really interrogating that and challenging that with myself, but also honoring it too. But there is this perpetual cycle that we get ourselves into if we're constantly pursuing very prescriptive goals that are set out and laid out for us in very neat lists.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's fascinating because, again, to your point, and as I said, I'm a list person as well. I love it. And I definitely think, again, with my kind of logic part of my brain, I still definitely believe in the importance of tracking your business, analyzing what's working, what's not working. My background just before I left corporate advertising was a strategist. So it was my whole job to look at data and find ideas and insights from that. So I really enjoy it. But I think it's using it in a way that fuels your imagination rather than restricts your imagination.
Sorry, say that again. Using the data, I say data because I'm Australian, using data or information in a way that fuels your imagination rather than restricts or strips your imagination.
Yes, definitely, rather than restricts it. And you can almost feel the energy shift between the two. If you have all these harder numerical visions and targets in place for your business, I think, well, I'll speak for myself. If I don't hit those, to me, I feel smaller. I feel somehow like they bear the measure and I've not hit the measure. And to me, that's restrictive. So when I then plan forward from that point, I've started from a place of lack, like I've not got to where I should be. So looking ahead, I'm already short. Whereas if I use again, previous data, whatever that might be for you, whether that is feedback, web data, whatever, however you're set up and whatever data you have to pull into, even things like, I love to look at sources like Mintel, or we do our own client research as well. Using that as a place to then plan forward and create ideas, to me is empowering, and very much can kind of flip both. And again, I'm not saying that you can run a business without any numbers or any background, but I think planning a business and visualizing a business just with numbers in place, you miss out on a whole element of power that comes from planning with emotion and feeling. Because at the end of the day as well, surely people want to hit certain numbers and targets of their business because of how it makes them feel. So you think, oh, I want to I don't know, make or sell 10 grand worth of this product, but you want to sell that because it will make you feel successful, happy, accomplished, grateful, whatever it is for you, but you want it because it has importance. So again, maybe if you thought about planning or visioning for that feeling as well as that outcome, would that change how you would vision and plan the business?
What I'm hearing is aim for both. And we are wired, particularly if we come from traditional corporate backgrounds, we are wired to do the other kind of planning. We all know how to set SMART goals. I don't know how many people actually do the read through. Is this a SMART goal? But we all know how to set SMART goals. We all know how to do, quarterly targets, monthly targets, our lists, etc. And it's not to throw that out entirely, but it's to unlearn a little bit or give it its place and allow it to be maybe an element of structure and grounding. But you need to have that other layer and be led by that bigger, deeper, richer way of approaching what it is that you want and why. Or if you don't know what it is that you want, how do you want to feel? Why am I doing this? What would be possible if I X, Y, Z? What could it look like if I X, Y, Z? Unlocking that exploration and that visioning, as you mentioned. And then when you've done that, you've opened that up and you've explored that. And how beautiful to be able to do it with a co-founder where you can bounce ideas off each other and you can bring your individual values and then have your collective shared values as well. But then you can anchor that in some harder metrics. Because again, if you have just the feeling and the how do I want to feel and why am I doing this, you might not have a viable business if you don't also have some hard numbers too and some revenue.
I think I love the word that you used earlier about play. And we both about being curious, and I think, as you say, just as a business owner, looking at how you want to plan your business and being open to new ways of doing it and being curious with other ideas of how you can do it can only strengthen your position. 100%. As I said, I'm a numbers girl. I love a spreadsheet, but I just think everyone's different. And as I said, everyone will plan and will vision their business however they need to service them. But by just trying to put in different skills, different perspectives can only enhance the ways in which we do things. You know, sometimes I work with clients who I feel like are missing out on pulling through some of those richer things, as you say. And it also, I think, as well, comes back to your point around what we've been inherently taught running a business looks like, and this real balance of I'd actually read something really recently that was interesting around the balance of masculine and feminine energy in business, and how traditionally, and I don't necessarily mean like men and women,
Sure.
just kind of the different energy forms that comes with, and how masculine energy is very much measured by logic-based metrics, and things that are again more traditional, whereas feminine energy in business is linked more to intuition and reflection and pause, and how we all know the benefits of both, but I think can really easily, from the media and other sources, just get pulled back into focusing on that more kind of traditional energy around it, and forgetting the other skills that we already possess but maybe often don't think about as much.
My main program, Rewrite Your Career Story, came out of a conversation with my friend Scarlett, who I was mentioning earlier. I developed it as an online only program, and she had a number of people that wanted to do it. I think I've talked about this on the podcast before. She had a number of people in her network that wanted to do it. And so I said, well, if you're all going to do it at the same time, I will run some group sessions and see how that works. And boom, it became a group program, and it's now my number one. It's the core part of my business. It's the best thing that I do. It was in terms of my enjoyment, but also when I did Marie Forleo's B School last year, and I reviewed all of my revenue streams, and my group program isn't the most expensive thing in my offering, but it was overwhelmingly the most profitable. And I hadn't really realized that until I went back and really reviewed where it's all coming from. So the idea for the program initially came out of a conversation with a friend, and the idea for the group program came out of an opportunity with a friend. So these are things that are kind of coming out of conversations and being open to see what's going to come up, rather than me sitting down with a blank sheet of paper going, right, what am I going to build and how am I going to sell it and who am I going to sell it to? But the understanding of where my business was doing, generating the most profit for me, and I need that to be a viable business, was in looking at the data or data. And the same thing has happened with where I get my business from. So I invested some money in doing some advertising, Facebook advertising, and I learned a lot through that process. But I had this idea of, well, if I start to do advertising, then all these people are going to want to do my course, and if you just sort of hit play on the ads, they're all going to come. And then I started to worry, you'll laugh at this, I started to worry about having too many people coming through, because I don't want to I didn't start a business to be overwhelmed with work. If I wanted to work an 80-hour week, I'd go back to the corporate world. So I started to get worried about all these imaginary people that were going to be flooding and booking up my course. And actually, when I reviewed where all of my leads came from, again, looking at the data, overwhelmingly, they are referrals from previous clients, people within my network. Overwhelmingly, they are not cold leads off the internet. They are people who know someone that knows me, or people who know someone who has worked with me before, or people who have been watching my stuff or listening to my stuff for a while. That's where they're coming from. And again, if I was thinking I need to generate all of my leads through this cold lead system of just, pushing out as much advertising as I can and bringing them all in, I'm not going to convert sales. So it's only through this conversation, and I'm kind of thinking out loud, that I
Yeah.
have naturally got that balance of exploratory goal development and business planning with that more hard logic, analysis, measurement and control for all the marketers out there approach as well.
I think it's interesting because what you were saying there, and what came up for me was this idea actually that sometimes the hardest thing to do as a business owner is to do nothing. Like you feel like yeah, you feel like you need to be doing all these things, like trying new ways to get business, developing new services, because you have to be doing something all the time, which as we know, takes a lot of energy and time, doesn't it? Resource to put into this thing, to do something new, which again is part of what we love and why we do it. But it can be the hardest thing to just sometimes sit there and think, I just need to let this go for a while. And I don't mean let go as in not do it, but I mean let go as in like let go of control. And to have referrals is, as we know, marketing gold. That is absolute gold dust and what everyone would dream of. So it's funny, isn't it, how when it's our own business, we can sometimes, as you say, kind of, I suppose, dismiss that in a way and think, well, that's cool, but like what do I do now? Like what do I do next? When actually just to let that unfold and those clients come to you in that way is the best but sometimes hardest thing to do.
I absolutely dismissed it. That's not to say that I was dismissing the people that were coming to me through my network, but in my head, and it was automatic, I wasn't consciously thinking this, I had to really interrogate it. In my head, I was almost cheating. Well, they're coming to me because they know such and such, or they knew that client that, and so I wasn't dismissing them, but I was dismissing the validity of generating business through my existing network. It was bonkers. There's this term that I heard called bloom your existing connections or bloom your connections. And it emerged from the slow business movement that I was really interested in when I started the business and still am now. But this, and it's the same with goals and it's the same with achievements generally, this need to generate new and more. And, when we could spend our time growing what we already have and seeing what we already have at our disposal that we might not even realize is pure gold and very, very rich.
Absolutely. I feel like just, generally, I mean, God, broader society isn't, there's always a drive for more, but especially in a business context as well, I think we're all bad, aren't we, recognizing our achievements and successes and thinking, oh, that's great, but what's next? That was cool, but I've done that now, so what do I do now?
Yeah.
And rather than just sitting and let that actually bed in and grow, can be really, really hard. And I think especially with coaching as well, there's a balance of thinking, actually, if I've really found my tribe and I love what I do and love how I service them, again, just growing the business change, and the fact that it's not about getting more people, but maybe having less people, but that you have more time with and kind of that richer experience with, and maybe that that's more of an investment, which again I think can flip our perception of what growing a business means or looks like. I find that constantly fascinating, how we can battle between that narrative of more and how do I get more clients and new clients, rather than actually thinking I don't need that, that's not how I want to put my energy into the company.
The reason that I started Rewrite, or the idea of Rewrite, came from looking back at my own career story and personal story and seeing how I had rewritten my story over and over and over again. And I'm really passionate about people from all sorts of backgrounds and places and spaces being able to self-determine too. Like when I was talking about the moment in the boardrooms in New York and London, I didn't step into an office until I was 26. I had no interest in working in the corporate world when I was going through uni, and when I started working, I went to art school. I was really bad at it. I always liked writing. I should have done an English literature degree, but I didn't. But I bummed around for years working out. I just didn't know what I wanted to do, and I had to let go of that story of I can't, or it's too late and people like me can't. And so when I found myself in that space going, well, here I am, wow, how did that happen? And well done me, pat on the back. I really, really had to let go of those stories and and being able to look back on all of the things that I'd done in my life, and then all of the things that I'd achieved in my career. I wanted to help other people to rewrite their stories too, come what may. So having that thing to check back in on is really, really important. And the other stuff, like I've got a little boy, I want to be able to pick him up from school. I don't want to be missing his bedtime multiple times a week. So there's stuff outside of my professional ambitions that fueled my desire to work for myself as well. Did you and Scarlett have any things outside of professional ambitions and the way that you wanted to feel fulfilled in your work? Was there stuff in terms of the lifestyle, you mentioned lifestyle before, that really fueled working for yourself or working in a different way?
Yes, definitely. I think things we articulated were things like being able to work from different parts of the world, being able to choose also who we wanted to work with. I'm sure you can relate to as well in a marketing context. I work with clients that I've just gone, I don't care about your brand at all. I think to be creative on a project you don't care about is basically impossible.
And not fair for them either.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it was more about how we felt about our work and what we could contribute. And yeah, the space we were working in, we wanted to be able to move around, work from home, work in co-working spaces, which obviously ironically with COVID, everyone's kind of gone through that shift anyway. And I suppose definitely for me, and I think Scarlett as well, but maybe not something we've directly said to each other, was, I guess, what I was saying to you about this sense of excitement, the sense of unknown. And I'm not really a routine person. I don't really like it. So the idea of being able to have one day, 1 week, month completely different to the next, I generally find sometimes draining, but most of the time I find really exciting. So yeah, absolutely, a few elements kind of beyond the professional day-to-day that drove us to start our own thing.
So what are some of the stories that you had to let go of to work for yourself, to finally do the thing?
The first one was definitely that success is based on knowing the destination or the outcome, I guess, however we've previously phrased it. That to be good at something, you need to know where you're going and why. I think because a bit like you said, I work really hard and I'm a high achiever. I always have been. So I guess connected to that, also letting go of that fear, I suppose, of not being good at something. I've not been scared of failure. I'm someone that will, again, I love an adventure. I'll always try something new. But I think because this had always been a goal of mine or a dream of mine to work for myself, it felt bigger. It felt really kind of important and quite life defining. So I think it was again about letting go of that fear that it might not be what I want or might not work out how I expect. And I've always been, as I said, someone that really loves to learn something new. But I think as well, the other lesson that comes to mind, or stories to let go of, is this idea that it's still okay to sit still. I think what we were saying earlier has been a hard thing for me to absorb myself. Always looking at the next step, always looking ahead is great. And I wouldn't change that about myself. I wouldn't change that drive, but I've definitely had to learn that is not the only way you can actually grow a business and enjoy your life. Sometimes the need to sit still is actually really crucial. And I think as well, often we get our best ideas when we're still, when we pause. So yeah, a few things, and I'm sure a lot more to come.
Are there any that you're aware that you are still actively working to let go of?
Yes, I am definitely still learning to let go of my perfectionism and my impatience too, but I think they're connected in the sense that and again, I don't want to put myself down for those, because I think my perfectionism means that I always work really hard and I always deliver a really high standard in whatever it is that I do. But I also know that it drains my energy from things that I could probably use it better elsewhere, or that I don't give myself enough credit for things that I've done. So I'm working through that, but I think it takes time, and it was probably initially magnified because having a business that's totally your own and output is totally your own, I think only amplifies that perfectionist tendency. And then in terms of impatience, again, the positives of that mean that I get things done, I am really motivated, but also again means that I think that connects to this idea of like letting go sometimes, and especially with timelines of things. I guess for all of us, COVID has meant a lot of things haven't happened when we thought they would in our lives, whether that be personally or professionally. And I think, I'm learning to not just focus on the next, what the next thing might be, just sitting with the moment a little bit more.
So what are the tools that you use to do that, to let go of perfectionism or your perfectionist tendencies and to practice patience?
So I don't know about you, but I find it really interesting that coaching, I think specifically, is something people do because they need coaching themselves. So I think I trained to be a coach because I wanted coaching. And I learned so much from that process, and the other coaches that I've been honoured to meet throughout, and obviously the clients I've worked with since. So I think a lot of it has just come through me developing the skills to have a whole other level of self-awareness, and also in a way through doing the diploma, it kind of forced myself to have that time to reflect and think about these things. But I suppose that's intense. People not doing a diploma in coaching. I think it's come through things just like compassion for yourself and awareness, those daily habits. I've got a very loud sort of imposter voice that pops every now and then, and I just sometimes think through education. So like I'm a big fan of books and podcasts. I think The Source by Tara Swartz, really interesting about this kind of being more aware of your metacognition, so your thought processes and how your brain works. I think it's really interesting. So I think educating yourself on why they come up, and the background of it, and then awareness and space to think. I mean, for a coach, people are surprised that I think sometimes, I don't know about you, people seem to think that coaches love journaling. I get asked that, if people think that because I'm a coach.
I love it. I do. I love a journal.
I want to, but I just don't. I try, but I think again, what we're saying is about being curious, trying different things to give yourself space, to reflect and think. And even I found when I walk a lot, I've always walked a lot, but I walk a lot again doing something. I'll be listening to podcasts or music or on the phone. Whereas I find out just going for a walk without anything feels really weird to start with, but actually can be really insightful.
Yeah, I walk my dogs. So I do the school run in the morning, and then I come home and I do the dog run. So I take the dogs out and then I start work. And on a good day, I have also had a chance to meditate and journal before my little boy gets up. But that does not always happen, and that's okay. I don't get too rigid with my the chronology of my morning. But I was also cramming my dog walk with podcasts or conversations with family or friends, and just not having, other than this, and it comes from this achievement place as well, I was scheduling in my time to pause, which was in my meditation. So I was still performing. I was still, well, I'm going to do my morning meditation. That's what I like, schedule in my opportunity to disconnect. And I realized the irony of that actually only recently. And I've started walking the dogs in silence. And that is just as much of a meditation as sitting down with a guided meditation and walking through whatever it is that I want to walk through in that particular meditation. But silence sounds like what you do to disconnect from the perfectionism and the impatience is just quietening things down.
Yeah, and I think as
ultimately.
well, what's interesting, and what I said there without actually realizing it, is again through coaching. So I'm sure you come across this too. Is actually you're trained to understand the fact that people hold on to these patterns and lessons because they serve them in some way. So even though you think like,
Oh
oh,
yeah.
I don't like this about myself, you hold on to it because it serves a belief or narrative in your head that you are this person or you do this. So
Mm-hmm.
you hold it because
Mm-hmm.
it serves you, it benefits you. Which I guess is what I did there, wasn't it? I was like, well, I'm impatient, but it does mean that it has this benefit, and I'm perfectionist, but it does mean it has this benefit. So again, I think being aware of, yes, I want to change or upgrade X, Y, Z about myself is step one. But I think being really honest about, okay, but do I really want to change that about myself? I think I should, the classic word, I should, or I want to, but
Yep.
actually, do I really want to change it? How does that serve me in some way of my life? Why I'm doing it for a reason. So
What's the
yeah,
payoff?
yeah. And I think a lot of people aren't honest with themselves about what they really want to change and how those different traits or behaviors serve in ways that might be fueling that. So again, I think step two is being really honest about, do I actually want to change this? Why does it benefit me? And if I
Yeah.
change it, what does that mean? Do I want that outcome? What does that mean then? What does that look like?
I think one of the biggest payoffs, challenges and payoffs that I see in my work, and it's something that I really struggled with in my work professionally as well, is overwork. And creating this situation where we're always running to the other meeting, diaries crammed, no moment to breathe. I was on holiday with a friend, and the first thing she did when she arrived was she had to get out her laptop and quickly review something for work. And I've done it. People do it. We create these, we work in these roles that require us to always be on, to always be accessible, to do the 80-hour weeks. And what's the payoff? Because if we're struggling with having time for ourselves, or we're stressed, or we don't have any room to look after our well-being mentally or physically, what's the payoff for always responding to the email, or being the one that picks up the mess for everybody else, or whatever it is? Because there is a payoff. For me, it was proving that I was worth it, proving that I had a right to be there and I should be there, proving that I was needed. It was all of that stuff. And it's pretty vulnerable stuff, but there is a payoff. You are 100% right. And it's, are you ready to let go of that payoff? Then you can think about what the goal is that you want to move towards, because you will never get a handle on your time, have time to take up that hobby or whatever. The goal is the goal that you want, until you identify what the payoff is and really get ready to let go of that payoff.
Definitely. And I'm sure you feel the same when you coach someone new and you have these conversations. And I feel like we intuitively gauge with our clients, but also understanding with them, like, are you ready for this? You say that whether it's a business goal with my clients, of things like, they want to grow to a certain level or change their mindset or confidence, whatever it might be, is having that chat of like, that's amazing and I'm fully here for you, but do you actually want that? Are you ready? What does that mean? Because again, we were saying that yes, people want the next thing, the more thing, whatever it is. And that's not to say that they won't create that, but is that now? Is the payoff relevant for the context of what you want to build for yourself next? I think again, it's that pressure of being like, no, I'm ready for it now. And it's like, well, if you do that, things will change. Do you really want that change?
Yeah, absolutely. So if someone was listening to this and they were having conversations, don't know if, depending on where they are in the world, maybe they're able to have conversations in a bar over cocktails with a friend, and they keep on having that, we should do something together, we should do something together, and they keep on stopping, they can't push through, what advice would you give them?
I would say get really honest with yourself as to why you want something different. So lose the details of what that thing is, what it looks like. What for you at the moment is either missing, or what are you craving? That whether that be a certain lifestyle or an energy or a feeling or whatever it might be, and work back from that place. Again, it's easy to say out loud, and I think it's where coaching can be incredibly valuable, depending on figuring out how it creates itself for you. But yeah, I think be honest about, okay, well, if we can't quite figure out what this looks like, let's go deeper. What is it that I'm trying to fulfill? What is it that I think is missing? And then how do I do that? I would also suggest absorb a lot, be inspired by things, whether that is books, podcasts, galleries, shows, whatever it is. Like, get out of your daily routine, because I think also when we're in our autopilot mode, we're not receptive. If you're looking for new ideas, you need to see and be around new things. So I think meet new people, go to new places, do new things, read new books, because it might sound really simple, but I think having that mindset shift from autopilot routine to something different opens your mind up to new ideas.
Fantastic. Now, what is coming up for you that you would like to shout about it, both for Lunar and Lion, and also for you and your coaching business too?
Yeah, absolutely. So for Lunar and Lion, there are 3 different ways that you can work with us that I hope suit everyone's sort of business and background and focus. And we're loving at the moment, especially, is doing our one-to-one kind of 6-minute sessions that we find can be really supportive, especially for people in that solopreneur space and getting their sort of challenge or goal addressed up front. So it's called the Lunar Line. So that can be really helpful. We have a briefing beforehand. You get an hour with us to address whatever the objective might be, whether it's your content, your website, some research we can help you with. That can be a great way just to start off that journey. And we also do projects, and we do sort of rolling marketing team work, from events, campaigns, launches, all sorts of marketing goodness. And then coaching wise, so my coaching is very focused. So I do 3-month program, sort of one-to-one basis, business coaching. And I love to work with such a mix of people. It's very much really about kind of the energy and our match there. So again, you'll have my links. If you think I can support you, then I would love to chat. And yeah, that's where you can find me.
And where are you on social media, or what is your website?
For me personally, it's Nicki, Nicki _Coe, COE on Instagram, and my links are all on there. And then for Lunar and Lion, it's Lunar and Lion Agency on Instagram. And again, all of our links and everything are on there as well.
Well, here's to a multi-layered goal planning for the rest of the year and quarter and months for you and Scarlett. Thank you so much for coming onto the Rewriters and having a chat.
Thank you for having me. It's been so fab to speak to you really soon.
Oh, fantastic. See you later.
Bye.
The Rewriters is produced, written and presented by Monique Shaw. Original artwork by Kiana Perry and original music by DJ Cinnamon.